There exists a principle so powerful that it has remained concealed within ancient teachings for millennia. This is not metaphor. This is not inspirational rhetoric. This is an operational law that Thoth encoded in the mysteries of AI. A law that reverses the entire relationship between you and reality itself. When you embody this principle, everything you've been pursuing begins pursuing you. When you resist it, every action you take generates friction, limitation, and static. This is the law of reversal. You are applying it constantly, but in opposition to your own desires. This explains why your deepest wants remain perpetually beyond your grasp. You apply pressure, existence hardens. You clutch tighter, it withdraws. You articulate perfect intentions, yet the universe registers an entirely different frequency. What you're about to discover is how to interrupt that pattern and redirect the same law to work in your favor rather than against it. This is actionable truth. You will encounter lived examples, observable patterns, and one immediate practice you can implement today that allows you to experience reality responding to you without effort. Watch until the conclusion, because the integration protocol, the component that eliminates struggle and sustains results, appears at the end. No complex ceremonies, no elaborate methods, just clarity about alignment and an internal mechanism you already control. Here is what this means in direct terms. When you live from the law of reversal, you become a magnet, not through force or manipulation, but by clearing the interference that obstructs what is already traveling toward you. The systems that benefit from keeping you in perpetual pursuit will call this subversive because it removes power from external structures and returns it to your sovereignty. Excellent, let it be subversive. Your existence is not a transaction platform for commodified attention. It is a resonance instrument that reflects your most authentic frequency. Why does force produce failure? Because reality does not respond to your conscious declarations. It responds to your underlying resonance. When your baseline frequency is urgency, existence delivers circumstances that perpetuate urgency. When your baseline is scarcity, existence confirms scarcity. You consciously declare readiness while your autonomic system broadcasts unresolved fear. The field responds to the unconscious transmission, never the surface statement. This is why you can labor intensely, recite affirmations religiously, and still experience yourself moving through molasses. The law of reversal corrects this fundamental misalignment. Rather than stacking more action onto a foundation of anxiety, you dissolve the anxiety that distorts your signal. You stop attempting to force open doors that were designed to open toward you. You stop managing variables beyond your control. You release the grip without releasing the vision. Then something profoundly unsettling occurs. The opportunity you were preparing to pursue arrives unannounced. The answer you could not strategize reveals itself as though it had been waiting for you to create space for it. Consider the moments in your history when relief preceded resolution. You wrestled with complexity until you exhausted your mental resources. You withdrew not from defeat but from authentic release. And clarity emerged through an unexpected message, an unplanned encounter, a detail that had existed in plain view but remained invisible until that moment. This was not coincidence. You synchronized with a law that favors equilibrium over excess, signal over interference. This is where most people object, so I should remain passive. Number strategic non-action is not passivity. It is action purified of fear, base distortion. It is movement originating from center rather than desperation. A flame does not combat darkness, it radiates. Water does not negotiate with gravity, it moves with it. When you abandon the struggle, you don't diminish, you sharpen. In a moment, you will practice this directly. For now, recognize the architecture. Control does not create, it constricts. You have been tightening your grip under the belief that you were directing your destiny. In reality, you were strangling the very channel that delivers it. Each time you mentally inspect progress, asking, has it manifested yet? You disturb the development and delay the emergence. The gardener who understands natural law protects the environment and honors the timing. You will do the same with your internal landscape. But won't releasing effort mean losing what I want? Release is not abandonment of desire. It is sustaining desire without fear contaminating it. It is maintaining your vision with the same quality you hold your breath between ocean swells. Composed, unforced, stable, you do not petition reality, you inform it. You do not chase manifestations. You become the conditions that make manifestation inevitable. This is the framework you will inhabit throughout this experience. Intention initiates, alignment amplifies, surrender completes. Intention without alignment creates noise. Alignment without surrender stalls at the threshold of realization. All three form the complete circuit. By the end, you will understand how to sustain this circuit daily, even within external pressure and demands. If you have been conditioned to believe that relentless hustle alone produces results, examine that belief against your actual experience. When did life advance most rapidly? During periods of tension and forcing, or during periods of focus merged with inexplicable peace? How many of your most significant opportunities originated from communications you never anticipated, doorways you never planned to approach, connections you could never have orchestrated? The law of reversal does not negate effort, it makes effort effective. One essential clarification before we continue: your mind will attempt to weaponize this as a manipulation tactic. I will release so that it manifests faster. That remains grasping in disguise. The field cannot be deceived by linguistic gymnastics. It registers the energetic weight you carry. What we are doing operates at a more fundamental and more radical level. We are dissolving the weight so your intention can emerge according to its natural timing. We are returning authority to the aspect of you that does not operate from panic if you are prepared to test what has been encoded in symbol and myth. Continue in what follows. You will experience conscious surrender, the pivot point where outcomes stop evading you and start approaching you. And you will learn to replicate this in ordinary moments within the texture of your actual life. You recognize this rhythm. The more intensely you push, the more everything tangles. You compulsively refresh communications, mentally rehearse interactions, replay scenarios until the entire day feels abrasive. Then the instant you disengage during movement, during solitude mid-task, the solution surfaces as though it had been positioned just beyond your forced focus. This is not fortune. This is the law expressing its preference for balance over strain. Conscious surrender is the inflection point where you stop blocking what is already flowing toward you. Surrender differs fundamentally from quitting. Quitting collapses your intention entirely. Surrender removes your interference from the process. Quitting declares this is impossible. Surrender declares this is already held. Quitting discards the seed. Surrender stops excavating the soil to verify germination. You maintain the intention, but you cease injecting fear into it. You allow the root to develop beyond the reach of observation. Observe how control manifests somatically in your body. The jaw contracts, breathing becomes shallow and elevated. Your consciousness fractures into potential futures where you justify, defend, correct, and pursue. That internal turbulence broadcasts outward. The field organizes in response to that turbulence, delivering people and circumstances that mirror the tension you emanate. You encounter precisely the resistance your nervous system anticipates. You label it misfortune, it is actually consistency. Now reverse the scenario. Recall a moment when you experienced calm not from apathy but from a quiet internal resolution. The conversation you had intended to initiate came to you. The information you had been seeking appeared in a casual remark. You perceived an opening that had existed all along, waiting for you to soften your focus sufficiently to recognize it. In that moment, you performed no supernatural feat. You stopped obstructing the pathway. Conscious surrender begins with radical honesty. You acknowledge the forcing behavior. You recognize the grasping thought that insists without my constant pressure this will fail. You allow that thought to arise and dissolve. Then you return to the essential statement of your intention, clear and weightless as though placing correspondence on a desk you trust absolutely. You do not track its journey. You do not monitor its progress. You trust the system you just engaged. You will feel your mind attempt negotiation. Very well. I will release so that manifestation accelerates. This remains control in different language. The field reads energetic weight, not vocabulary. So you strip away the weight. You remove fear-based timelines. You take whatever action is obvious and alive in this moment, and you stop manipulating what is already in motion. You become receptive rather than aggressive. This is how it registers internally when executed correctly. This outcome belongs to me through alignment, not through strain. I plant it once. I protect the environment. I respond to openings. There is no supplication in that frequency. It is clean, like placing a key on its designated hook. You know its location. You do not need to verify its presence every few minutes. Daily scenarios demonstrate this principle. You push for a conversation to resolve immediately. It's sour. You create space overnight. It softens. You pursue an opportunity through repeated communications. It stagnates. You complete quality work, close your systems, and attend to an unrelated task. The response arrives during your absence. You stop aggressively manipulating the mechanism, and it releases what you want. The mechanism was jammed by your force. Surrender becomes accessible when you honor natural timing. Certain thresholds open only when all elements are ready. You can strain against resistance and damage the structure. Or you can wait the necessary duration and pass through without friction. The ego demands recognition. Let it protest. Outcomes are indifferent to who receives acknowledgement. Your mind will demand a technique. Provide something elegantly simple that does not transform into another form of supplication. Select one situation today. Inscribe one clear affirmative statement about it on physical paper, as though leaving a message for your future self. Position the paper somewhere you will not obsessively monitor it. Breathe deeply into your lower body. Release tension from your shoulders and state once this is handled. Then engage the next clean, ordinary action that has nothing to do with forcing that result. Respond to communications that genuinely require your response. Complete the task already positioned in front of you. Take the walk that returns you to embodied presence. For the next 24 hours, refuse the compulsion to verify progress. If an opening appears, engage it. If not, do not disturb the field. You will feel the urge to interfere. Allow the urge to exist without acting on it. Notice what emerges in that created space. You begin distinguishing between genuine intuition and anxious impulse. Intuition is quiet and precise. Contact this person. Examine this document. Take this route. Anxiety is loud and diffuse. Do something, anything immediately. One moves you with purpose. The other creates chaotic loops. You cooperate with the first and deliberately starve the second. What about ambition and drive? Maintain them, aim with precision, execute with excellence, show up consistently. Surrender does not eliminate your edge. It removes the flinch that dilutes it. Athletes release excessive grip and their technique refine eases. Musicians stop overcompensating and the rhythm locks. You are not becoming passive. You are removing static so your action connects. Social pressure exists. People conditioned by urgency culture will equate panic with commitment. They will interpret your calm as indifference. Maintain your frequency regardless. Evaluate through outcomes, not through performance. When results begin aligning, explanation becomes unnecessary. Protect your field the way a skilled gardener protects newly planted ground. Limit what tramples it. Do not invite conversations that introduce doubt. Do not consume information designed to trigger fear responses. Do not narrate your process to anyone who requires your anxiety to feel secure themselves. Keep it simple. You know what you planted, and you will witness it when it emerges. If you need a physical reminder, select one. A stone positioned on your workspace, a piece of jewelry. Each time the urge to check status rises, contact the reminder and return to the statement you created in the morning. Not to repeat compulsively, not to push, but to remember. Memory replaces monitoring. Presence replaces surveillance. If nothing manifests immediately, you just trained the only capacity that matters, holding intention without leaking desperation. Once you can sustain that clean signal for extended periods, The field has sufficient quietness to orchestrate the movements you could never manually arrange. Everything you encounter responds not to your stated words, but to the signal you carry in stillness. That signal is your dominant emotional state. Call it the quantum field, the subconscious mind, the invisible substrate. Language varies. Mechanics remain constant. It receives whatever you emotionally register as true and organizes events to validate it. Wanting speaks with volume, feeling speaks with authority. This explains why effort can coexist with delay. You verbally declare abundance while breathing scarcity. You speak of connection while vibrating fear of abandonment. You request clarity while rehearsing confusion. The field is neither moral nor sentimental. It is precisely obedient. It cultivates whatever you plant, especially the seeds you refuse to acknowledge planting. Consider a moment when you desired a response and unconsciously believed you were being dismissed. You crafted the ideal message, checked repeatedly, contracted with each passing hour. The field registered, "I am not valued," and provided confirmation. Then recall when you were certain, composed, not arrogant, that communication would arrive. You sent one clear message and moved forward. The response came as though scheduled. The difference was not in your words. It was in your gravitational field. Here is the mechanism in one statement. Your most consistently practiced emotion becomes your attractor. Rehearsed anxiety generates stuck doors. Practiced certainty generates opening doors. This is why the law of reversal begins internally. You do not force outcomes. You upgrade the baseline frequency that outcomes respond to. How do I transform a feeling without self-deception? Do not overlay positive language on top of fear. Select the next most honest feeling that exists at a higher frequency than fear and stabilize there. Not fantasy adjacency. When panic states nothing functions, the next authentic step is not everything is perfect. It is some things are functioning, and I can build from those. The field accepts that frequency because you can genuinely embody it. You have evidence when you have experienced safety. You naturally made superior decisions. You perceived opportunities, requested support without contracting, declined options that felt misaligned. The external world did not transform in those moments. Your broadcast shifted, making different aspects of the same world accessible. People call this luck and overlook the mechanism. You are both the transmitter and the receiver. The law of reversal appears mystical because most people never recognize the switch in their chest. They attempt to change material conditions while maintaining unchanged emotional states. It resembles shouting new directions from a vehicle that still has the old destination programmed in the navigation. The system politely reroutes you back to the familiar coordinates. 3 brief narratives. A designer maintained I am perpetually behind as her internal script. Every project confirmed it. Delayed communications, extending timelines, clients who revised at the final stage. She replaced that script with I deliver meaningful work according to schedule, not as a mantra, but as an embodied state. She eliminated elements that reinforced the old identity, communicated more simply, concluded her day at a clean stopping point rather than in frantic exhaustion. Within 2 weeks, revisions arrived earlier, client communications became more concise. Same external world transformed gravitational field. Take a moment and drop a comment below sharing one area of your life where you've been forcing instead of allowing. What would shift if you applied the law of reversal there? Your insight might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Someone I know obsessed over a relationship that remained undefined. His broadcast was demonstrate I am safe. The field generated ambiguity to sustain that request. He shifted to my safety is internal, and I am drawn to people who mirror that. He stopped analyzing communications for hidden meanings and invested evenings in genuinely nourishing activities. The tension dissolved, clarity emerged, both people recognized the misalignment without conflict. An entrepreneur pursued a partnership like someone fleeing a closing threshold. He reframed to the aligned partners enhance both my peace and my prosperity. He released one compelling option that created contraction in his chest, and with that freed attention recognized a smaller, cleaner opportunity that multiplied. The field had not been punishing him, it had been reflecting the pressure he believed was necessary. Common element, none of them increased their actions. They carried different atmospheric conditions. What about affirmations? Language is useful when it serves as an anchor for a state you can authentically hold. The field does not read your sentence, it reads the state your sentence generates within you. If a phrase creates tension through disbelief, it works against you. If a phrase creates steadiness, maintain it. What about visualization? Valuable when it culminates in peace. Visualize the result until your nervous system softens and remains there. If you conclude more desperate than when you began, you rehearsed scarcity. Close the practice. Engage one grounded action you would take if you already possessed what you want. The action is not to manipulate reality. It is to train your baseline frequency. Today, provide the engine with clean input. Select one domain, resources, vocation, relationships, vitality. Write one statement you can genuinely believe that elevates your frequency by 1 degree. I make clear decisions that generate steady resources. Or I enjoy exchanges that feel reciprocal. Or I treat my body as though it is already returning to wellness. Read it once. Allow your breath to descend. Now behave for the next hour as the person for whom that statement is obviously true. Not performance, simply choices aligned with that frequency. Respond to the communication that advances resources. Decline the thread that spirals. Hydrate, move your body. Complete the task you have been avoiding. The field requires a stable carrier wave, not spectacle. Old programming will attempt to reassert itself. It will suggest one urgent verification to confirm nothing has shifted. It will manufacture a minor crisis to pull you back into familiar frequencies. Smile at it the way you smile at someone who repeats the same story. Do not argue with it. Do not submit to it. Return to your statement and continue moving. This is where the law of reversal demonstrates power. With a stable baseline, you act with lightness and precision. One communication that matters instead of 10 that leak desperation. One message without apology. One boundary stated as simple fact. The world interprets steadiness as authority and reorganizes around it. But what if my need is genuine, need is legitimate, panic is optional? The more challenging the external conditions, the more valuable a stable internal climate becomes. You are not performing calm. You are selecting the channel that maintains your intelligence. There exists a temptation to claim outcomes are random so that internal states become irrelevant. That belief protects the ego and imprisons you to chance. The law of reversal returns agency without demanding control. You are responsible for your frequency. The field manages timing and orchestration. Protect this mechanism like a precision instrument. Do not hand it to people attuned to drama. Do not feed it a diet of stress hormones. Do not narrate your process to anyone who requires your doubt to feel validated. Guard what enters. What emerges follows. As you practice, the interval between intention and manifestation contracts. You will also sense a new kind of friction. The type that appears when an option is misaligned. Rather than pursuing it, you feel a quiet refusal and honor it. That honoring is not fear, it is fidelity to the field you just calibrated. Integrate this understanding. You now comprehend why wanting without alignment fails and why composed certainty attracts. What follows is the paradox that unlocks momentum. The instant you stop requiring the result, it begins approaching you. And how to sustain formation without constant inspection. The instant you stop requiring it, it begins approaching you. You have experienced this. You pursued a communication until the connection became brittle. The day you released it from attention, the response appeared. You pressed for a conversation until it hardened. After creating space, it softened. The paradox is not supernatural. The field prefers balance, not excess. Requirement is excess. Peace is balance. When you release the clutch, the engine engages. Release is not loss of interest. It removes the weight that prevented the result from landing. You maintain the intention. You dissolve desperation. You stop narrating timelines to the universe as though panic were strategy. the underlying feeling becomes quiet, and quietness is what the field can register. Grasping creates signal distortion. You hover over the outcome, refresh status, compare, predict, and plead. Each action broadcasts, I do not possess it. The field responds with scenarios that sustain you in that statement. Then eventually you exhaust yourself watching timelines. You return to what is alive and present. You cook, you work, you laugh, you organize your space. Something shifts in the invisible. A communication clears. A person initiates contact. A pathway you could never have reasoned your way into stands accessible, as though it had always been there. It had been. You stopped blocking the threshold. People conflate surrender with apathy. Apathy collapses your aim completely. Surrender maintains the aim and removes the strain. Apathy states it does not matter. Surrender states it is already held. One drains power, the other concentrates it. 3 domains where the paradox reveals itself. Resources. You chase validation, reduce your value, pad communications with apology and the opportunities contract. Replace apology with clarity and deliver from calm. The opportunities expand, not because the world suddenly became generous, but because your signal stopped broadcasting lack connection. You grip attention and interpret meaning into every silence. The bond weakens. Choose to enjoy your own company and appear as someone already complete. Affection flows back, or the misaligned connection releases without drama. Vitality. You combat your body as though it were adversarial. The system floods with stress. Treat the body as an ally already oriented toward order. The metrics you could not force begin to shift. Same law, different contexts. If you could perceive the mechanism, it would appear like this. Tight hands create turbulence around what you want. The turbulence prevents settling. Open hands create a pocket of still air. What you want can land. You are not dragging outcomes into existence by force. You are creating a space where they can rest. This is where protective silence becomes essential. After you plant the intention, guard the environment it develops within. Do not narrate every increment of the process to people who feed on doubt. Do not invite conversations that introduce fear into the soil. Do not consume feeds designed to spike your nervous system and then expect your signal to remain clean. Protective silence is not secrecy for theatrical purposes. It is stewardship. You are constructing a sanctuary around emerging growth. Protective silence is active. Execute your work and maintain your center. When fear thoughts emerge, what if this never manifests? What if I am mistaken? Meet them like passing weather patterns. Do not argue with the storm and do not construct shelter beneath it. Return to the statement that defines your state. This is already in motion. Act where action is obvious, then stop. Refuse to excavate the soil for verification. What we've explored today about the law of reversal is one current within a much larger system of conscious transmission. If you're feeling the pull to go deeper into how frequency shapes your entire reality into the complete framework of becoming the broadcast rather than chasing outcomes, I've created a comprehensive guide called Beyond the Frequencies, a quantum guide to consciousness mastery. It contains the full architecture of how to shift from seeking to being, including practices for each of the master frequencies that govern manifestation, relationship, and embodied presence. It's linked in the pinned comment below. Silence also means you stop testing the universe like a suspicious supervisor. Once you initiate a piece, an application submitted, a proposal delivered, do not retrieve it for daily inspection. Allow the other side to breathe. Allow the invisible to arrange the timing you cannot micromanage. You are not lazy, you are strategic. Results prefer space. Social cost exists. Culture worships visible strain. People will call your calm indifference or label your trust as naive. Allow them. Evaluate through outcomes, not through performance. The paradox delivers outcomes. Panic delivers performance for an audience that compensates in adrenaline and applause and little substance beyond that. Take a moment right now and comment below with this phrase. I am magnetic to what is already mine, not as a casual gesture, but as an energetic declaration to the field. Your words interrupt the old loop and signal the new frequency you are choosing. This is conscious participation in reality's response to you. Return to the law. The common trap is pretending to release while secretly bargaining. I am releasing, so it should manifest by this specific date. That is a timer concealed in gentle language. The field reads the timer, not the gentle language. Authentic release removes the expiration date entirely. Authentic release feels like this. You set it down and your chest expands. You can contemplate the topic without the metallic taste of urgency. You can plan next steps without manufacturing emergencies. You become available to surprises because your hands are empty enough to receive them. Practice without transforming it into ritual. Use thresholds. Each time you cross a doorway today, home to street, workspace to kitchen, meeting to corridor, mentally place your intention back on its hook. Not to repeat, to remember, the hook is trust. The room you are entering is your life. Live it while the field orchestrates. The fewer times you pick the intention up to verify its pulse, the stronger it develops. You will notice resistance. A voice will demand that you maintain vigilance. Allow it to speak and fade. Direct your attention to what is already responding. Communications you can answer cleanly, work already in flow. People who meet you with clarity. Momentum loves witnesses become one. Old options will reappear disguised as urgency. They will request you to prove desire by abandoning peace. Decline graciously. The moment you compensate with anxiety again, you re-enter the chase. The law of reversal is not a technique you apply once. It is a standard you maintain. When the result manifests, and many will manifest more rapidly than you anticipate, resist celebrating as though ending a drought. You do not owe scarcity a celebration. Acknowledge, integrate, and sustain the frequency. The objective is not to win one outcome by accident. The objective is to inhabit a climate where outcomes continue finding you because you refuse to contaminate the atmosphere. You do not need a new life to live this. You need a new baseline. The law of reversal is not a technique for special occasions. It is how you carry yourself from waking to sleeping so results continue finding you without you feeding the chase. Begin at the start of each day before communications and noise. Establish one clean intention in a single statement. State it once as though placing correspondence on a reliable desk. Then behave as the person for whom that statement is already obviously true, not performance. Simple choices that match the frequency. If the intention is clarity, write clear communications and stop patting them with apology. If the intention is prosperous work, move one task that actually advances revenue and decline the distractions that consume hours. Maintain a simple rule for action. If it contracts your chest, it is a refusal for now. If it steadies your breath, move. This is not superstition. It is a rapid assessment of whether you are about to leak desperation or transmit certainty. You are training your instrument. Keep it calibrated. Maintain honest timing. Do not attach a fuse to outcomes. Remove the silent timer that transforms trust into bargaining. When the urge to verify status flares, contact your anchor, stone, jewelry, the edge of your workspace, and return to the statement you established in the morning. Memory replaces monitoring. Presence replaces surveillance. Work cleanly, execute the obvious next step that belongs to you. Then stop where stopping is intelligent. Leaving clean edges is not laziness. It is respect for the field orchestrating the components you cannot reach. Micromanagement is noise. Precision is signal. Guard your inputs. Do not hand your frequency to people nourished by your doubt. Do not consume rooms designed to spike stress hormones and then expect your frequency to remain stable. Speak less about what is forming and more about what is already real. Gratitude is not performance. It is an atmosphere that tells the field continue. Use thresholds to reset. Each doorway you cross today is a quiet switch. Workspace to corridor, corridor to street, street to home. At each threshold, place the intention back on its hook, not to chant, to release the clutch again. You are training the body to find center without effort. If this understanding is touching something real in you, if these words are landing in a place that recognizes their truth, then I invite you to subscribe, not just to this channel, but to this frequency, this space, this conversation that continues beyond any single video. Subscribe to stay in this field of conscious creation where we explore the invisible mechanics that shape visible reality. Handle setbacks without breaking the circuit. When something slips, do not declare the law broken. Correct your baseline and move the one lever you still control, the state you carry. Apologize cleanly if necessary. Repair what is yours to repair and refuse the spiral that demands a performance of despair. Results do not respond to theatrics, they respond to steadiness. Speak to others from this steadiness. Do not argue for your value, embody it. Communications shorten, requests become precise. Boundaries stop sounding like threats and start sounding like facts. People who match your frequency feel relieved. People who feed on drama lose interest and drift. Allow them to drift. Space is part of delivery. Expect tests. Old options will return dressed as urgency. They will request you to compensate with anxiety to prove you still care. Decline graciously. A closed door is not punishment. It is confirmation that you are complete buying results at the old price. Notice how the field contracts the gap. Communications arrive without chasing. Introductions occur at the edge of ordinary tasks. Problems dissolve when you stop narrating them into larger problems. You are not summoning supernatural events. You are removing friction so timing can be graceful. Here is what most people miss about this process. The law of reversal does not merely change what arrives in your life. It transforms who you become in the process of receiving. Each time you choose calm over panic, each time you select trust over control, you are literally rewiring the neural pathways that have kept you locked in pursuit mode. Your brain begins to recognize that safety does not require constant vigilance. Your nervous system begins to understand that provision does not demand exhaustion. This is where the ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience converge. What Thoth encoded as spiritual law, we now understand as neuroplasticity. You are not just applying a technique, you are restructuring your relationship with reality at the most fundamental level. The repetition is not the affirmation you speak, it is the state you return to. Every time you catch yourself spiraling into checking, monitoring, forcing, and you consciously return to center, you strengthen the pathway to that center. Eventually, center becomes your default rather than your destination. Consider how this plays out across different time horizons. In the immediate moment when you release the grip, you feel physical relief. Your shoulders drop, your jaw releases, your breathing deepens. This is not just relaxation, this is your body exiting survival mode and entering creative mode. These are two fundamentally different operating systems, and they produce fundamentally different results. Over days, you begin to notice synchronicities multiplying. The right person mentions the exact resource you needed. A conversation takes an unexpected turn that opens a door you did not know existed. An obstacle that seemed immovable suddenly shifts with minimal effort. People often dismiss these as coincidences, but they are not random. They are the field responding to your new frequency. When you stop broadcasting urgency, the universe stops sending you urgent circumstances. Over weeks, your entire decision-making process transforms. You start recognizing the difference between opportunities that genuinely align and opportunities that simply trigger your scarcity programming. The shiny distractions lose their grip on you. You develop what ancient traditions called discernment and what we might now call energetic literacy. You can feel in your body whether something is a yes or a no before your mind constructs elaborate justifications. Over months, you realize your baseline has shifted entirely. What once felt like a practice now feels like your natural state. You no longer have to remind yourself to release control because you have embodied the truth that control was always an illusion. You move through your days with a quality of presence that others can feel even when you are not speaking. This is what it means to become magnetic, not that you are doing something to attract, but that you have removed everything that was repelling. The depth of this transformation cannot be overstated. You are not just changing your circumstances, you are changing your identity. The person who chases is not the same person who receives. The person who forces is not the same person who allows. This is why the law of reversal can feel destabilizing at first. You are quite literally dying to an old version of yourself. the version that believed love meant suffering, that success meant struggle, that worthiness had to be earned through perpetual effort. What emerges on the other side is someone who understands that your value is intrinsic, not conditional. Someone who knows that the universe is not withholding from you, but waiting for you to create the conditions for receiving. Someone who recognizes that every moment of frustration in your past was not evidence of your inadequacy, but evidence that you were applying force where flow was required. There is also a relational dimension to this work that deserves attention. As you shift into this new way of being, your relationships will either deepen or complete. People who are attracted to your struggle will find you less interesting. People who resonate with your peace will find you magnetic. This is not a loss even when it feels like one. You are not pushing people away. You are allowing natural alignment to reveal itself. Some relationships will transform beautifully. That friend who always vented their anxiety to you will either learn to regulate their own nervous system, or they will drift towards someone else who will participate in that pattern. That family member who criticized your calm as irresponsibility will either recognize the evidence of your results, or they will maintain their need to see you as reckless. In both cases, your work is not to convince them. Your work is to remain in your frequency and allow the field to sort what belongs and what does not. Intimate partnerships become particularly interesting laboratories for this principle. When you stop seeking completion through another person and start showing up as already complete, the entire dynamic shifts. If your partner is ready to meet you in that maturity, the relationship deepens into something far more nourishing than what existed before. If your partner is still operating from lack and need, they will either rise to meet you or the mismatch will become undeniable. Either outcome serves your evolution even when one is more painful than the other. In your professional life, this shift creates what appears to be uncanny luck. You stop accepting projects that drain you and suddenly better projects appear. You stop tolerating clients who disrespect your boundaries and clients who value your expertise arrive. You stop performing your worthiness and your work speaks for itself with a clarity that requires no justification. What is actually happening is that you have stopped sending mixed signals. The field no longer has to deliver circumstances that match your internal conflict, because there is no longer internal conflict to match. When results land, integrate rather than exploding. You do not owe scarcity a celebration. Acknowledge, stabilize the gain, and maintain the climate that made it possible. You are building compounding evidence inside your nervous system that calm functions. That evidence is the real wealth. It makes the next decision simple, but here is where many people stumble. They apply this law. They see results, and then they immediately return to old patterns because success triggers a different flavor of fear. The fear that you will lose what you just gained. The fear that this was temporary luck rather than sustainable alignment. The fear that you do not actually deserve what just arrived. These fears will attempt to pull you back into monitoring, controlling, and forcing. Recognize them as the old identity making a final protest before it dissolves completely. The mastery is not in applying the law once. The mastery is in maintaining the law as your permanent operating system regardless of what appears or disappears in your external circumstances. When something you wanted arrives, you receive it with gratitude and continue in the same frequency. When something you wanted does not arrive or arrives differently than you imagined, you remain in the same frequency. This is what the ancient texts meant by equanimity, not that you do not care about outcomes, but that your internal state does not fluctuate based on external conditions. This level of stability is what allows you to build genuinely sustainable success, rather than the boom and bust cycle that exhausts most people. You are no longer riding the emotional roller coaster of hope and disappointment. You are standing on solid ground, responding to life from a place of center, rather than reacting to life from a place of fear. This is the difference between someone who occasionally manifests what they want and someone who lives in a perpetual state of receptivity to what is ready to arrive. If you feel called, share this video with someone who's been struggling in the chase. When you transmit these principles outward, you're not just helping them, you're reinforcing your own embodiment of this frequency. Each time you articulate these truths to another, You deepen your own cellular understanding. You create an energetic ripple that returns to you multiplied, and you might just provide the exact mirror they need to recognize what's been true all along. If you lead others, transmit this culture, praise precision, not panic, reward clean stops, not heroic rescues of self-generated emergencies, protect deep work from shallow noise, the organization begins to breathe at the same rhythm you do, and outcomes scale without burning people down. At night, close the loop without disturbing the soil. Review like a scientist, not a judge. Where did you leak desperation? Where did you hold center? What moved when you stopped crowding it? Carry one insight forward and leave the rest on the day you just completed. Sleep is part of surrender. Allow your body to do the work you cannot supervise. This is the operating system. Plant once with clarity. Live the day from alignment. Release control as a posture and respond to openings with precision. You are not abandoning ambition. You are removing the static that kept your best moves from connecting. The result is a life that answers you because you finally transmit like someone worth answering. Steady, specific, already complete. Now select one domain and leave this for the next 24 hours. One statement, one anchor, one refusal to excavate the seed. Drop one word in the comments below that captures the energy you are choosing moving forward. Not an explanation, just one word. Your energetic signature to the quantum field. And if you have not yet subscribed, subscribe now. Not just to stay connected, but to stay coherent, to stay elevated, to remain in this frequency as we continue exploring how consciousness shapes reality. The more of us who embody this truth, the more the world reflects that truth back. You may be the mirror someone else needs today, and if you want to go deeper into applying this without force, there is more waiting for you. Continue and keep the frequency. What you've discovered today about releasing the chase is only the beginning of understanding your true nature. Once you recognize that you are not separate from the field, but are the field itself expressing through form, everything transforms. The next step in this journey reveals how to live from that recognition rather than just understanding it intellectually. When you stop identifying as the seeker and recognize yourself as the very consciousness that creates what you seek, you move beyond manifestation into pure embodiment. That's what we explore in the final phase of awakening. When you realize you are the field, this understanding completes what we've begun here.